Morse. Stuart, lovely to see you.
And you, Nigel, thank you very much for inviting me.
No, thank you. Stu, from the very beginning, are you a Stratford man?
No, definitely not. I'm a Swindon man.
You're a Swindon man. What brought you up to Stratford then?
That's an interesting story.
Go on, we've got time.
Oh, okay then. Well, I was going through a divorce at the time. I've always been at Swindon, and I was at Swindon Town Football Club for 27 years as a match day announcer and stuff, and I was going through a bit of the old ditch the witch time, and all that sort of thing, and I was going through that, and I went on to that thing called Match.com.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, and I was on that for a little bit, and all of a sudden I got a wink from what is now my missus.
Good.
Who got the mileage wrong on her filters and winked at I, and 15 years later here I am.
Lovely to have you up here. Let's go on to football. Accepting Stratford are number one, who's Stuart's number two team?
Swindon Town.
Swindon Town. First memories, Stu? Football game you ever went to? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I think my first ever game when I was about 6-7 years old was Swindon Town versus Gillingham, and they had a fella called Yeo who was their centre forward and stuff like that. But one of the early memories was watching a fella called Ian Hutchinson playing for Chelsea Reserves at Swindon, and we've got about 10,000 fans to watch that game out in the, I don't know when that must have been, the 70s or something like that, when Ian Hutchinson, the long throw, windmill arms.
I was going to say, was that the same
that?
Windmill arms?
Absolutely, but
yeah.
He played his last ever game of football at Swindon Town because he fell over Jimmy Allen, the goalie, broke his leg again.
For those of you who don't know Ian, I suggest try and Google the 1970 FA Cup final.
Yeah.
You'll see Ian with some tremendous throw-ins.
Incidentally as well, in my other life when I was doing a pub relief manager and a sock taker and all that sort of thing, I actually took a pub over it from Ian Hutchinson a little bit later as well. It's in Taunton.
Lovely, lovely. I'll throw a date at you, Stu. 15th of March 1969. Does that mean anything to you?
Well, that was when Sir Donald scored a couple of goals against Arsenal. Yeah.
I was doing some reading on that game, and I actually looked.
Don Rogers, I've actually beaten him at table tennis.
Well, he beat a fair few Arsenal players that day, didn't he?
Yeah, Ian Bob Wilson was in goal.
I've looked at that the teams for that day in preparation for this. I think it was the days of one substitute team, so you got 24 players. There were 6 Scottish lads. There's 1 Welsh lad, and the rest were English. And again, for those who don't know, Swindon Town were in those days a 3rd division club, and Arsenal were one of the best teams in the country, and you turned them over.
But we knew we'd turn them over because it was like a bog. Wembley was absolutely like a bog, and our manager at the time, Danny Williams, he got the Swindon players playing on what was WD and H.O. Wills's ground, their sports field, and that was like an absolute bog, and he had them playing out there all the time. They fancy Dan's at Arsenal, they wouldn't have been on bogs, and Wembley was a bog. There you go.
The London media actually gave 2 excuses why Swindon won that day. Do you remember what the second excuse was?
I haven't got a clue.
They says the Arsenal team had got an illness going through the camp, so they're not satisfied with one. They had to put 2 excuses. One of my memories of Swindon Town, 12th of April 1993. Do you remember that?
12th of April. That sounds like a playoff, and I don't know whether.
No, it wasn't a playoff.
No.
I'll feed you a little bit more information. 51 minutes into the game, Birmingham City are beating Swindon 4-1.
And Swindon win 5-4?
6-4.
6-4?
6-4, yeah. So I can remember listening to that on the radio, although I'm a Birmingham fan. I didn't actually go to that game, and just thinking, they get what? Blues are winning 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, and then you're thinking, just shut up please. And then 6-4 they lost, so a bad day for the Blues that day. But did you ever play football yourself, Stu?
Only at school. Yeah, only at school. No. It's sort of like, played for all the school teams going up through, and I was a bit portly, but I was quite a good centre forward, and I could shoot the ball into the goal. Dan Lafferty, make your mind up time. But hey ho.
I was a bit portly, but I used to be a goalkeeper, so frustrated centre forward, I think. But You've mentioned it a little bit earlier, your involvement with professional football. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Well, that was it sort of goes back to sort of like always been a Swindon Town fan and all that sort of thing. But then on 6th of November 1990, unfortunately, I got my foot caught in a load of racking when 144 tons pushed my foot right way through that. And I noticed this thing because it's sort of like 7th or 8th of November, I'm waking up in hospital and Villa are playing in a European Cup game. And I always remember because they were coming out taking a bit of drip out of my leg and all that, and they gave me a bit of the old shot, and there was another game on immediately after, and I woke up for the second game and I thought, what's going on? I thought I was watching Villa. But anyway, sort of like that time of night, and my ankle got absolutely crushed, which is why you see me limping a little bit sometimes and stuff like that, because it's all full of arthritis and all that, and it's all fused now, look. But there you go, but it is what it is. And then during that time, I'd always been a table tennis player, and I sort of like got involved in Swindon table tennis, and I was the fixture secretary because I was off work. I was on crutches for like 18 months because of this injury that I got, because they were on about, cutting me foot off when they were taking me down, like, and then waking me up and say, oh yeah, I still got a foot, that's all right. Yeah. Anyway, so so that time I got involved in table tennis, and then I sort of like came Wiltshire Table Tennis, I was a general secretary of Wiltshire Table Tennis, and I was still injured and bobbing about, and in that time I'd sort of like contacted BBC Swindon, or BBC Wiltshire as it was then, and sort of like said, look, do you want to get something done on your sport programme about table tennis? So I got that in there, and I had a slot on Wiltshire Table Tennis on the Friday night sports show. And anyway, I started doing that, and then all of a sudden I was talking to the woman on reception, and she used to do the ice hockey for Swindon, cover it for the local radio. And anyway, she got a job with Radio 5. She said, I know you were a season ticket holder out there as well, because I used to like that. And she said, do you want to cover it for us? And I said, yeah, all right, then I'll give it a go. So I got into the old radio lark, and while they're there, the sports presenter at, one of the main news guys on his Monday to Friday show, sort of like main primetime show, sort of like, we want to get him a slot at Swindon, and they're doing all the football. Would you mind going to Swindon and then put the records on and stuff like that? And that was like nearly 30 years ago. His name was John Gripton. He was a Wolves fan actually, but I think he works around here these days as well. But so that was me getting involved in Swindon, and as well in the ice hockey as well, which I was later the team secretary for the Swindon Chill.
I've seen a photo. I just wanted to make sure what I was looking at was right, really. Did you get onto the pitch at Wembley?
Yeah.
Go on. Well, a dream.
Well,
Tell me more.
It's
Don't be blasé, mate.
Okay, but it's teams make the playoffs at Wembley, and they ask for their announcer at whatever club to come out and sort of like G up the fans and stuff like that. You don't even get a free ticket, I'm telling you. You still have to pay for your ticket to go there. But anyway, Swindon played Preston, and I don't know what year it was, but we got absolutely snotted 4-0. And so and then obviously I got asked to do the announcing for the Swindon team on the pitch at Wembley, and it was a bit of an honour, and it was a bit of the old squeaky bum time and stuff like that. But 50,000 people in Wembley, and
It don't matter if it's 1 or 100,000. It's Wembley, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to be on that pitch must be unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Many have failed in what you've achieved there, Stu. Really. What brought you to Stratford Town Football Club?
Well, that was another thing as well. I mean, I'd always wanted to come out here. Ever since I moved up here, I was still doing the stuff at Swindon, but I'd always wanted to come and watch the local team. But Saturdays didn't work. Stratford are always at home, Swindon are always at home, so I'm always down there doing my bit for the town. And then sort of like, I sort of came, do I still want to do this? Mum and brother had died and stuff like that. So my trip down to Swindon wasn't meaning so much anymore. It was literally just going out to the football. And what it was is Kevin was doing the announcing, and I think his wife wasn't well, and they put out on social media, is anybody sort of like, can they help us for the back end of this season? And I was coming along, and I said, look, I do this. If you want an help, then do it. absolutely nothing happened with it. You know, I thought, fine. I bought my season ticket for that following year, and I was just coming to watch. It was the Woking game, a pre-season, season before last, and there was loads of Swindon players playing for Woking at the time. You know, Scott Cuthbert and Rowan Ince were playing for them, as well as a few others. And I thought, oh, what's it? And I came with my stepson Simon, and we were watching. We're actually in what is the TDR function room bar now, and we've got our beers, like, you know, and all of a sudden, the old hand on the shoulder. I'm Jed. I heard you want to help us. And there you are, 2 years ago, and here I am.
From match day announcer to match day commentator, how did that come along?
Well, it's something that Jed wanted to do all the time, just to take the club into the next level. And don't get me wrong, I love doing the match day announcing because it is an art, and you've got to learn. You've got to learn to watch the football game a little bit different to what spectators do, because you've got to have your eyes on substitutes, you've got to have your eyes on boards. You know, you can't start cheering when they score a goal, because you've got to find out who scored if you possibly can, and you know, build yourself up before you actually announce it, and don't get it wrong, make yourself look an absolute person. But you know, it's an absolute art, and not a lot of people take that for granted. And you know, Wood is that to learn, and I've tried to sort of like say him to because one of the first things he said to me, he says, "Oh, these players, they've all got the same hairstyle. They look all the same from up here and all that sort of thing." So I said, "Well, what colour boots are they wearing?" And you can usually get them from the colour of the boots. If you can't, you know, because Swindon had it. They pre-season, one of their games, they all shaved their heads. Really, you know, but then you've got to learn them from the numbers and the boots that they like to wear. So you then would look at it a different way. So
you come on here, it's about 10 to 3, and obviously you finish the commentary, whatever time that is. It can be as late as 5 o'clock. How difficult is it to talk for 2 hours? I know sometimes you have a player alongside you who can make comments, but you've got to keep going. How difficult?
The thing is, you're watching something you love, and you say what you see. The hard part's the half-time, when you've got to fill and try and get something along the lines of that. And I know I upset old Mick and Dave and stuff at half-time, like, you know, but I mean it all in jest. Don't worry about that, like, you know. But you know, it's a bit that's the hard part. But not only that, especially at home games as well, the broadcast may have finished, but then I've got to try and get some interviews for the media and stuff like that. And you know, and then people say, you know, we've just won a great game, like, you know, and there's people like me and Woody, we're up saying, look, we're sat in the bar and we're looking absolutely knackered and so miserable, because it actually takes it out of you.
You've got to come down from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's you say what you see during the game, absolutely no problem, and it's as easy as pie. You just call it. I mean, if we were live on telly, you'd see how many mistakes I'm making, but hey, can't tell me that on radio, can you?
I sometimes look at the Sky commentators, ITV, BBC commentators, think of the John Motsons. My favourite was always Barry Davies, but they have got reams of paper in front of them. They can tell you the inside left's shoe size if they need it. How do you prepare for a game?
I look at the opposition, I see where they are in the table, but it's a little bit different because they've got to be unbiased when they're doing their commentaries and stuff like that. I haven't. I am absolutely pro Stratford, and if I don't agree with anything that the opposition are doing, I'm going to absolutely say it. And you know, we had some old geezer in front of us on Saturday at Colville, and oh my word, how biased he's saying the commentary was. But you know, he's the one that's calling offside from 70 yards away, and I think, yeah, all right, mate. But
that was going to be one of my questions, but you've just answered it. It was going to be, how do you commentate, or who do you commentate for? Do you commentate for the neutral, or do you commentate for Stratford Town?
I'm a Stratford Town fan.
Yeah.
This is it. This is Bardi Army Radio. I am a Stratford Town fan. Yes, I try to be fair in my analysis of the play, but if the referee, I think, is a balloon, he's a balloon. He's a balloon because he's not playing up to his ability, where I like to see the players playing to their abilities and, you know, and improving and trying to score goals for Stratford Town.
Fair to say you're unashamedly biased to Stratford.
Hell yeah.
I just want to go back a couple of weeks now to the Berkhamsted game. I think everybody will remember that due to the volunteers who turned out and supported the club at 9 o'clock in the morning to get that match off, or to get the match on. But I can remember you at the end of that game. You came down from your gantry. You were absolutely frozen. So the wet pitch had nothing to do. You were bitterly cold. You were red all over. I mean, what are the difficulties of being there? I'll just come in to say, I've seen you, Stuart, at some of these grounds that we've gone to, and I won't mention the grounds because they're adverse commentary, but I've seen Stuart broadcasting, and his facilities have been a dustbin to put everything on. So what are your difficulties, Stuart?
Well, we're non-league football. They just don't have facilities for people, and where they do, it's like Kettering just 2 weeks ago. They put us in the very front row of the stand, so we're totally at ground level. They put us, give us a table, but then all the fans are trying to walk past as well. They have no idea what it is for, you know, visiting media people. You know, at Stratford, at least you're back and you're treated reasonably. You get tables, you get PowerPoints and stuff like this. But it is what it is. You know, the best one we've been to, I mean, Leiston was absolutely brilliant.
I was going to come on to Leiston.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. But they don't even use the facilities themselves there. You know, and it's astonishing. They've got some really good stuff there. And Telford as well. I mean, they're a league club in the making, at Telford. And, you know, we've got to aspire to be like them as well. And that's it's all evolving. At least absolutely things are developing here, and we are trying to improve game on game. Look at the clubhouse now, it's absolutely fantastic. Yes, Mick, the spelling is right, well done, buddy. But
I'll just let people into a little secret here. At the Leiston game, I can remember taking you and Woody half time, cups of tea, mince pies, sausage roll, cakes, sandwiches. Not every away game is like that, is it, Shirley?
Oh, absolutely not, no. And we sometimes it's, you know, just trying to get flask and stuff like that, or even a cover over here and things. But yeah, that's what makes it great, isn't it? It's that's what we come here for.
Ah, good. One of the things I've noticed is that comes the end of the game, you are down in the tunnel or around the tunnel or even out on the pitch, and within a few minutes of that game ending, you've got the microphone into somebody's face. I mean, that can be fraught. Any difficulties at all? We won't mention any players or anybody, but have you ever had a difficulty or not?
It's always difficult when the result hasn't gone well, and I'm here to portray Stratford Town in the best possible light that I can do. And that's when you see the interviews that I do. I'm not here like journalists to trap anybody or trip them up. Yes, I like to have a laugh, but not after the game or anything like that. And I want to get a true assessment from that person of what they saw. And that's what you will always try and get when you do that. The annoying parts is sometimes that you kept waiting quite a long time, and when you've already done sort of like 2.5 hours on the radio and stuff like that, sometimes it's a bit rude.
I mentioned last Saturday, I mean, at the end of the game I was outside our dressing room at Colville, and I must admit I wrote these questions out last week, and I thought I'm going to see one of mine actually answered today. But I mean, with respect to Gavin, after the game, and it was disappointing, the result didn't go our way. We had 5 minutes additional time, which went on to 8, and we conceded in the last minute. Personally, at the last kick of the game, I understand everybody was disappointed, but I can remember Gavin coming out of the changing room and saying, "Stu, do you want a few words?" Which I thought was credit to him. To be honest, it must have been. Things hadn't gone our way, but at least he fronted up to the camera, didn't he?
Yes, he absolutely did, and that was, to be honest, that was one of the best interviews that I got off with Gav that I took there. But the previous week he said, "Borny, you do it."
Since being at Stratford, what's your favourite moment?
I think in, somebody like Devon O'Sullivan coming on and scoring against Leamington, which should have been the winner. That is great. Like, you see the youngster, he'd been around the team, he'd been in the training, he'd been to absolutely every game, and he just wasn't getting a look in or anything, and Gav put him on there, and he just took it, and he took his opportunity. And when you see a youngster that has developed absolutely through the club come in on and be able to do something like that and score an absolute worldie in front of that many fans as well, it's absolutely, you can't make up them sort of like dreams.
It was a moment that lasted probably no more than 90 seconds. But again, for those Stratford fans, go away onto YouTube and get that bit of commentary of Devon's goal. I was wondering whether that would come up, so you haven't really surprised me there, Stu. But moving away from football a little bit, when you used to do the commentary before the new Bards bobble hats came out, you used to have an American football hat on, hadn't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that to keep your head warm, or does it mean something?
Well, I used to. I like my music as well as I like my football, and I used to go at Christmas time to Boston in Massachusetts, Boxing Day, for the sole reason to go and to watch my favourite band at the time, which was the Mighty Mighty Bosstones. And they used to play at the House of Blues in Boston for 3 continuous nights over Christmas, and they used to call that a hometown throwdown. And we go to that, and some of the best gigs I've ever seen, and sort of like you're dancing the whole time, like you're absolutely coming out covered in sweat and walking back to your hotel in minus 20 weather and all this sort of thing, but it didn't matter, it was absolutely brilliant. But that's Boston. So when I'm in Boston, I like to see a little bit of sport. I used to, well, I still do sometimes before my new Bards bobble up. That's a New England Patriots. That's the American football team, which is Boston, although it says New England, but that's their local team, and I did go and watch them a few times when I was over there. And I remember one time as well, we had to pay, it was like 300 quid a ticket. It was for me and the missus to go, and my word, we were absolutely up in the gods. We were on the back row, and it was minus 25 outside, and they were giving everybody hand warmers and stuff like that. We were there. Actually, the missus, because it was so steep up the stairs, she wouldn't come up. And we stayed for a period, and then we went out to the bar and we watched the rest of the game, even though we were in the stadium in the bar and stuff like that. But we went out to watch that, and then we go and watch the Boston Celtics as well, playing the basketball, and the Boston Bruins playing the ice hockey. And when you're over there at Christmas time as well, actually they had a Boston Celtics game, basketball game in the afternoon, in this very same arena. That evening they turned it around for a Boston Bruins ice hockey game, and it's just absolutely amazing. And it's just great. And then I went for like sort of like 8 years on the trot to Boston over the Christmas period.
Primarily for the music though?
Well, I'm ready for the music, but catching the sport when I'm over there.
I'll come back to the music in a second. You've mentioned a number of sports tonight: football, ice hockey, table tennis, basketball. What is your number one sport?
It's going to be football, but I was brought up on table tennis. My mum had her own club, and I was playing from the age of 5 onwards and stuff like that. And then when I injured me leg and all that sort of thing, I went into coaching, and I did a bit of coaching there and stuff, and I got a young junior player up into the top 5 of England. I used to go around the tournaments in the weekends and stuff like that, and then I developed a little bit of that, and then took the admin side of things with the fixture secretary, and then I was the general secretary of the Wiltshire Table Tennis Association, of which I was instrumental in building their first table tennis centre, which was at Devizes Town Football Club, and that was the chairman of Devizes Town Football Club. It was a certain Brian Hillier. Now, if you know anything about your Swindon Town history, he's the geezer that put the bet on against Newcastle, which got them relegated after winning the playoff final against Sunderland, which Alan McLaughlin scored the goal.
I'm not into history that much, but interesting to hear that. Just before we have the game start, I'll always have a chat with you, and it's quite obvious that you are into your music. And one of my questions is going to be favourite bands or what have you, but I think if you was in Parliament, the answer you'd give now is, I refer to the answer I've previously given. It was going to be, who's your favourite band?
I like me American ska, which is third generation ska, which is basically a mixture of rock and ska music with a massive brass section hammered into it. So I like the Mighty Boss Tones. If you haven't ever checked it out, check out YouTube for a Throwdown. It's just all one word, Throwdown, and then see how many there are in Boston, and just look at the show. They just put on a fantastic show. Bands like Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish, and of course bands like the Style Counsellor and stuff. And at the minute, I've just booked my next gig actually. The Style Counsellors are at the 4th of May at the HMV Empire, and that's the one I'm going next to, and I just love. It's got to have a good beat to it, you know what I mean? That's what I am.
I'm going to transport you off to a desert island. I'm going to be quite kind to you and say you've got 3 albums or tracks or whatever they're called today. 3. Which ones are you going to take with you?
I'll throw out some of the older stuff first, and I'll go with New Boots and Panties by Enduring the Blockheads, because that's
means something to you.
When you listen to Sweet Gene Vincent going and stuff like that, that's a good song as well. What else am I going to like? It's going to be a Boss Tones album in there, but to be honest, I just play them, and I've got my Spotify, and I play the whole lot and stuff like that. Setting Suns by the Jam as well, my early growing up, and I don't know. Give 'Em Enough Rope by The Clash. That was another good one coming up. There's some really, really good songs on that.
Good. Come to my last question. Alive or dead, who would you most like to interview?
Jeffrey Boycott.
Why? What's special about Jeffrey Boycott?
He's a Yorkshireman, and he calls it as it is, and you can't beat that. When you listen to my commentaries, I called it as I see it there and then. I call it as it is, and I'm not out to lie to anybody. I'm out here to tell the truth and say it as I see it. And every time you hear that man speak, then you just know that you're going to get something good out of him, and stuff like that. So yeah, Jeffrey Boycott for me.
Stu, it's been an absolute privilege, and I thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.